In previous video, we've already talked about 2 out of 3 core issues in case of the United States. We first talk about what American produce, and we focused on talk about the GDP and the GDP per capita, and the the change of the 3 different working sections. And when we talk about how American produce, we focus on the labor-intensive, capital-intensive economics, and also the role of government. Now we still have one core issue left, that is for whom American produce. Before I start to talk about it, I want to remind you that when at the beginning in our introduction video I mentioned for whom the United States produce, we do care about inequality. In order to talk about inequality, I want you to look at this picture. So what do you think? Yeah, don't tell me this is a bridge from the Pittsburgh. Obviously, it's look alike. The main reason I show this to you is because I want you to see the business circle. So when the 19 to 28 and 2007, we have the big recession. So when we have the big recession, what happened is we have the big inflation. So that's why we have the two peak here. But what happened is during the recession, we do have the best situation for income equality. People's income equality is not as bad as nowadays. So now we want to talk about the income inequality. So for whom American produced, so it's talk about allocating the products to the user can be done by government or by the market mechanism, or by a mixture of the two. So remember, we in the first chapter we talk about the different mechanism. We have the government-centered mechanism and the market mechanism, but nowadays most countries adopt the mix of the two. So in the United States, about 1/4 of the GDP is allocated via government and 3/4 via the market mechanism. So what does the allocated by the government, such as government collect the tax and give the subsidy, those two are used by the government to allocate the GDP. But that part only 1/4 of the GDP, but 3/4 still allocated by the market mechanism. So this telling you that for the American, they have the mix of the two economy. So the U.S. income distribution is a really hot topic. I think many of you already heard this term again and again. That is income inequality. So the income has an unequal distribution in the United States and in every other country as well. Actually, the higher the income, the greater ability to buy goods and service. And we can sort out the United income earner by quintile. So 1/5 of the population in the ranked order by income. The top quintile gets half of the all United States income. The bottom quintile gets less than 4%. So this graph will tell us the distribution of income, and you can find the income equality. So the top top 5% of the people, but the richest, highest fifth income population take up half of the GDP. Is that incredible? So only 5% of the richest, 5% of people, they take up the 50% of the total GDP. So that means the rest of the people are very poor, except these 5% of the people. So the income disparity are greater in other countries, especially in the poorer countries. So you should feel lucky that you grew up in the United States, because we are not belonging to the poor country. The income equality is a severe problem in the poor country. So poor people, bottom quintile in the United States, receive far more goods and service than the average household in most low-income countries. So for the people living in the United States, even they say they are getting the lowest salary, they should feel happy, because if they were in other poor country, they will get even fewer. So what is the U.S. economic look like? Economy look like? So what goods and service does the United States produce? So actually, the United States produce goods is desired by the consumers. So sometimes they call it consumer-oriented market. So the producer try to figure out what is consumers' preference. Based on the information, they start to produce the products. So if it has a lower opportunity cost, it produces goods in the country. If not, it buys goods from other countries. Can you think about some example like that? I believe you can come up a lot of good ideas. What kind of product the United States buy from other countries, such as the toys. If you go to the toy store, you can find most goods are made in China, and many of them are exported from China as well. And also the soybean, and China buy the airplane from the United States. At the same time, the United States buy a lot of soybean from China. So because the China has a cheaper way to grow the soybeans, the United States has become a heavier service-based economy. So which means if you want to run your own business in the future or work at the bank, you will contribute to the service-based economy. And how is that output produced? So United States firms are in business to be profitable. To succeed, they must satisfy their customer and comply with government regulations. Each firm will select the low-cost mixture of the input necessary to produce a good acceptable to its customers. So now, in the future, if you run your own business, you really need to memorize the 3 points: how is the output produced, and for whom is the output produced. In the market economy, those with larger incomes satisfy more of their wants than those with less. Income is unequally distributed in the United States and elsewhere in the world. So that's the end of this chapter. So be prepared for the next week's class.